Hello and welcome to this thematic episode of Buy, Hold, Sell. My name's James Marlay. I'm a co-founder of Livewire Markets, and today I'm joined by Roger Montgomery from Montgomery Investment Management and Simon Conn from Investors Mutual, two great investors that know a lot about fundamentals. And today we're going to be talking about one of the most common things that I hear fund managers tell us matters when it comes to assessing stocks, and that is finding a good quality management team. One of the troubles we have is the conversation is often quite theoretical. So my two guests today are going to talk through some of the really high quality management teams that they've uncovered across a range of sectors on the ASX. But before we get into the stock specifics, I'm going to take each of our guests. Roger, I'll start with you. Could you tell me what are some of the things that you're really on the hunt for when it comes to finding good quality management?
Well, let's remember that we're passive investors. So, we don't get to influence company decisions. So what we're looking for first and foremost is honesty and integrity. Now, this is often reflected in a management that backs itself with the right incentives. So if they're putting proper long-term incentives in place with a high proportion of at risk, then that's really handy. But above all else, we think it's really, really important that management are absolutely brilliant capital allocators. That shows up in the profit retention versus dividend decision, or it might be in the price paid for acquisitions, or it could be the price paid for share buybacks.
Simon, what are some of the things that you really value in a management team? You've been around decades, so I imagine you've got a long list, but give us the short list of the top priorities.
Yeah, thanks, James, and thanks for having me on the show. I think the big thing we focus on, a bit like Roger, is a management team that's shareholder focused, and often that, as Roger alluded to, that comes through with acquisitions and divestments. So capital allocation is key, but also a really strong, emphatic leader, empathetic leader. So you want someone who's shareholder focused, but also leads the team with a clear mission and a clear direction. So you want someone who states out, where the business is going, what their strategy is, and that comes through public releases. But I often find that's then reflected internally as well, so that the whole management team understand where they're going. And that drives, common purpose. And I think that's been really tested in COVID. We've seen, companies, where management teams have all been dispersed to different parts of the country, and those businesses around to focus and continue to drive good outcomes for shareholders are those that have got a really strong, clear purpose, a really empathetic leader, but a strong leader, and also a really good board. And I've often found, a chairman who's been there and done it before can add a lot of value to a company in terms of driving shareholder outcomes and ultimately good returns for investors.
Well, it is an interesting time for us to look back and see how the different management teams stacked up, because they really got put to the test in 2020. I think all businesses would have been forced to ask a lot of really difficult questions throughout 2020. So a good time to reflect and have a look at some of those standout teams. What we're going to do is we're going to go across 5 sectors. Roger and Simon are going to each call out a standout management team and what it is that impresses them so much. So Simon, I'll start with you. Financials, a big sector in the ASX. Could you call out a standout management team there for me, and what did you like about them?
Yeah, look, we own Bank of Queensland, and we've bought into that more recently because we really like the chairman. Patrick Allaway has bought $1 million of shares PA first day of the job. He's rebuilt the board and then the management team. Hired George Francis, and George again has changed the management team. Driven a clear focus on home loan market. They've got 3 brands in that portfolio now, with ME just being recently acquired. Clarity of focus and a really strong execution. They've renewing the IT stack, which is a really important part of financial services. And we think they've got a really strong focus on shareholder returns.
Okay. Roger, is there something in the financial space, a management team that has caught your attention?
Look, when you asked me the question, James, I immediately thought of Macquarie Bank or Macquarie Group, but actually wanted to stretch the friendship and throw in Gregory Goodman from the Goodman Group. Greg's been there for 23 years or thereabouts. In terms of executive incentive and alignment with shareholders, they've just implemented a new 10-year plan. That'll see the testing and vesting periods for senior management go out to, to 4 and 10 years, but out to 10. And I mentioned earlier capital allocation. Well, back in 2014, the company was generating about an 11% return on equity capital. Today, they're 2.5 times larger. Debt hasn't grown. It's therefore a fraction of what it was relative to equity in 2014. And they're now generating a 17% return on equity. I mentioned capital allocation earlier, and those numbers really do reflect excellent decision making with respect to capital.
Yeah, excellent. Now, Roger, I know mining and resources is typically not your space, but it is a big sector on the ASX. Is there a management team in either resources or in energy that stands out for you?
Well, since we launched the Small Companies Fund, I've had to take more of an interest because Gary and Dom are right into the space, particularly in terms of lithium. So I'm going to throw in mineral resources and Chris Ellison and his team. Somehow they manage, I don't know how they do it, but they managed to run the world's largest crushing contractor. It's a top 5 lithium miner, and it's Australia's 5th largest iron ore exporter. He's entrepreneurial. He managed Monadelphous out of receivership. And in the 15 years he's been at the helm since the company listed in 2006, he's increased equity on the balance sheet by 43-fold. Mostly that's come from retained earnings, which has increased 164 times. And net profits in that time are up 64-fold. Most importantly, profitability has risen during his tenure, and ROE has gone from 26% in 07 to 41%. This is a company who's in their annual report, they talk about return on invested capital 63 times. And so there is somebody who is really, really focused on the right things. And that's why we like them.
That sounds like SEO, search engine optimization for fund managers. I tell you what, Simon, Roger's got a point. It's hard to have a conversation about mineral resources without hearing about Chris Ellison. What's your standout CEO or management team in the resources or energy space?
Yeah, look, it's a very cyclical sector, so it's always a difficult sector. But one that stands out for us is Ian Davies at Cenex. You know, I think Cenex Resources has been a really good performer over the last 12 months, and I think that's really the product of many years of hard work by Ian and the team up there, also led by Trevor Bourne on the board. He's the chairman. He's excellent as well. So, a really good management team and a singular focus on shareholder returns and just driving improved performance out of their coal seam gases on the gas fields on the East Coast. They exited their legacy asset in the Cooper Basin, so they exited the oil business for a good price. And this year, testament to the strategy, they started paying dividends. So really, trying to fill that gap we see on the East Coast with a shortage of gas. And they're just very focused on, the fields that they operate. They're not looking to try and build an empire. They're just trying to generate good cash and grow production gradually through time and building a really quality book of customers. So they've got people like CSR, Aurora, Busy Gas on long-term contracts, which underpins a very long-dated sort of contract book, which generates, pretty consistent cash flows. So, that's a business we think, is underrated by the market and underappreciated. But Ian's done a really good job, and I think he continues to position the business well going forward.
Now, one industry where the CEOs and the management teams really earned their dollars over the past 18 months is retail. You wouldn't have wished it on your worst enemy to be running a retail business through COVID, although it actually turns out to have been quite a fruitful place. Simon, is there a retailer out there that catches your eye for the quality of the management team?
Yeah, look, one we've made good money over in the last 12 months is Myer. And it's a bit of a controversial decision, and not many people, are big fans of the department store. But, I think John King and the team there, John has rebuilt the management team again. Nigel Chadwick, CFO, but really strong focus on customer proposition. And if you look at the cash flow that business has generated over the last 3 years, they're now in a net cash position. They delivered the first second half profit for them since 2017, the recent result. A very strong position. They continue to shrink their footprint and focus on profit per square metre, not sales per square metre. So as opposed to trying to just grow the top line, very focused on profit. And they're really one of Australia's unsung heroes in the online piece. They've got an online business that does over $500 million, which positions them as one of the largest online players in the market, and one that's growing very quickly.
Roger, is there a retailer that sort of rings the bell for you?
James, there's a bunch, mate. There's Roger and Andrew Brown at ARB, Alan and Peter Wilson at Reece, the teams at City Chic, Adairs, Nick Scarley, Accent Group, and even the newly appointed Victor Herrero at Lovisa. I think he's going to do an outstanding job. He's certainly incentivised to. But again, I'm going to stretch the friendship, mate. I'm going to throw an airline at you. And I reckon the airline services company Alliance Aviation Services and the team under Scott McMillan there, he's been managing the company as director for nearly 20 years. And I think what he's done is he's managed to build a business model that actually remarkably suits the sector's very, very deep cycles. He's been really patient and opportunistic, taking advantage of a slump in the industry to buy planes at distressed prices. And they've developed a business model that I think delivers attractive and relatively predictable returns on capital in an industry that is certainly not known for that. I mean, a 30% return on capital over their listed life is a very simple demonstration of what I said earlier about what to look for in identifying solid management. And we reckon there's more value creation to come now that they've bought those E190 aircrafts during the slump.
So let's go to technology, a slightly more ritzy sector than airlines, Roger.
Definitely.
Who are the technologist management teams that you think are quite visionary and executing exceptionally well?
Well, it's interesting you say the word visionary because, in this sector, in the ASX All Tech Index, you find a lot of companies with really aligned founder-led businesses. And here I'm going to go with Sam Hupert and Anthony Hall, who are co-founders of Medicus. Since 2015, equity on the balance sheet's grown threefold, and 3/4 of that has come from retained earnings. They have absolutely managed from that increase in retained earnings, which is mostly responsible for the growth in equity. Just 4% of that growth in equity has come from capital raisings. And in that time, profits have grown 8-fold. So this is a highly profitable business, huge runway in front of it, and a diligent bunch of really smart capital allocators at the helm.
Yeah, interesting. Simon, technology, it's probably not the biggest sector I'd imagine in an IML portfolio, but you guys always find interesting ways to access different sectors. Is there a technology management team that ticks the boxes for you?
Yeah, one that we like and made good money for over the last 12 months is ReadyTech. It's a little bit below the radar and probably not well understood by the market, but as Roger was alluding to, it's got a founder-led CEO. So Mark Washbourne, I think we invested since the IPO. He's done a great job in terms of growing that business. More recently, he added a third vertical to his portfolio in terms of the Open Office acquisition. But essentially, the business operates in 3 verticals. It's a born-in-the-browser software business. So they've got a workforce business where they supply workforce management tools for SMEs. They've got an education division which provides a lot of student management software for TAFEs and universities. And they're just in the process of implementing their largest implementation at Bendigo TAFE, which has been done all through COVID, which I think is testament to the strength of the team and the vision that he's got. And again, I think that underappreciated by the market, trading up sort of 22 times PEs, which half the multiple of his one of his competitors like Technology One, which trades over 50 times.
That's cigar butting investing in technology land, isn't it? 22 times. That's like bargain basement.
Yeah, well, if you look at the share price, you could have bought it cheaper in over the last 12 months, which we did. So yeah, it's been a good performer.
Good stuff. All right, final sector we're going to touch on is healthcare. Simon, we'll stay with you. Standout team in the healthcare sector.
Yeah, one that we've made good money for investors over the last 3 to 4 years is Integral Diagnostics. Ian Kaddish is a doctor by training, but he's also a very strong businessman and really disciplined around how he runs the business. So, he's built a strong management team under him, and he's also well led by Helen on the board. A very strong board with 2 radiologists on the board. So empathetic with the healthcare professionals that he employs, but also understands the balance between looking after the healthcare needs of patients, the needs of doctors, but also generating a profit. And so one of the things that's been happening in radiology is technologies coming to play more and more. So he's been very adept at using artificial intelligence to increase the productivity of the doctors, so allowing them to see more tests and also highlighting injuries or ailments within the body from the scans, which delivers better outcomes for people.
Roger, we're going to finish up with you in the healthcare space. What's your standout management team in healthcare?
Mick Farrell and Rob Douglas over at ResMed, both been there a very long time. Michael's been there for 21 years. What we like about it is they've surrounded themselves by equally impressive people who are running the various divisions and geographies. And what we like is that all those people are given airtime, so investors can be confident it's just not all Mick and Rob. We like the fact they've timed their investments well. They've diversified appropriately into SaaS through their Brightree and Propeller acquisitions, and that's given them channels outside sleep. What we like also is that they communicate in a really consistent and measured way, so investors can track their progress, and they haven't stuffed up even in a minor way, at least recently.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings to close our thematic discussion. We've given you 10 cracking ASX leadership teams across 5 different sectors. I hope you enjoyed the show. And remember, subscribe to our Livewire YouTube channel. We're uploading fresh content every week.